Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing this bank holiday Monday? Let me just adjust this selfie stick. Warm today. Welcome to my channel, guys. Motocross Mania TV. Now, as I just said, hope everyone's having a good bank holiday weekend. Hope the sun's shining for you wherever you are. Hope the light is outshining the dark. So yeah, guys, a big shout out to everyone across my channel. Just come back from the market just now over at Shoreham, and again there was a few guys that pulled me up and said, "Are you Joey Barnett?" And I said yes. And yeah, it was really nice. It's really nice meeting and greeting new people and getting picked out, you know, from the crowd. People actually noticing me, and this time all for the right reasons. Yeah, all to inspire people. Really, this is why I've got my channel, to inspire people and to let people know that committing crimes and taking drugs is far from glamorous. It's an absolute fucking mugs game. So the sooner you learn that, the better. It really is. It's an old saying, you're better off being outside with your freedom skint than being inside having millions of pounds. Because once you're locked away with all that money, despite how much money, what wealth you've got around you, what health, what family you've got, once you're away, you can't use it, you can't spend it, so it's completely useless. And when I was bang at it years and years ago, yeah, just let me adjust this stick. When I was bang at it years and years ago, I always thought that one day, yeah, I'd hit the jackpot doing armed robberies, doing blags. I always thought I'd hit the jackpot and I'd have enough money to retire, but that day never come. What did come instead of that was a massive 12-year sentence. It caught up with me. So you might get away with you might get away with it for a few years, whatever you're doing, committing skullduggery, but at the end of the day, you know, you're going to get your collar felt. And all them wasted years, what I spent in prison, you cannot get back. You really cannot get back. And, you know, I'm going to have a little chat with you in a minute about Swaleside. I've got loads of prison stories, and all my prison stories can be vouched by many other people. Like to give a big shout out to Yami B, one of my old school friends from back in the day. We know each other very well. When we first met years and years ago in the system, on the circuit. And I'm sure Yami will vouch for any of my prison stories, what I'll say, and I'll vouch for his too. So yeah, big shout out to you, Yam. Hope you're doing well. A big shout out to everyone across my channel, as I said. But yeah, there's a few of us what have come out that have turned our life around. It's very hard, yeah, to break the cycle of that revolving door. That revolving door of going in, coming out, going in, coming out. You need to do something spectacular. You need to break that cycle to get away from it. And I'll tell you something now, beating addiction, not just drug addiction, the addiction of going to prison, in and out. Because what happens is in the end, you get used to it. And it becomes the second home to you. And, you know, it isn't a deterrent for you no more. That's what happened with me. Even after I got that big sentence, that 12 years, you know, I come out and I was still bang at it, and got another 3-year consecutive. So I got a recall on that 12-year sentence, and I got a 3-year consecutive. So I had to do the whole lot. So I'm going to try and adjust this selfie stick a little bit better. Anyway, we are now 4 minutes into this video, and I'm going to have a little chat with you about HMP Swaleside. Now, as I said, the reason why I talk about prison is to deter anyone and to frighten people away from it, and to stop people thinking that it's glamorous, because it isn't. Once you go in there, you know, you get lost in the system. You're all on your own out in them empty cells. They're dark, they're cold, they're lonely. You know, you've got no family around you. All you've got is people around you. They're not friends, they're just acquaintances, what you meet in jail, you know, jail people. And, you know, I met so many people in jail, good people too, you know, what I'll stay friends with on the outside. But most of jail people, you know, you talk a load of bollocks in there. Yeah, I'll see you on the out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And in the end, it's just, you're just talking to each other. It's just, you know, gas. You're just gassing to each other. It ain't real. It really isn't real. Once you go to prison, you're broken away from society. You're broken away from reality. You lose your name. You lose everything. All you are is a number. And as I said, it doesn't matter how big you are in the game on the outside, how much bird you've done, or what you got round you. Once you're in there, you're just a number, and no one gets treated any different. So, you know, people ask me about what was Reggie Cray like, what was Mickey Steele like, and if, you know, Charlie Bronson and all the big names. And in jail, you're all on the same level, so no one talks down to each other. There's no pecking order whatsoever. You know, you might get, you know, someone what has got absolutely nothing at all on the outside, potless, yeah, ain't got no name, they've got no reputation, they've got nothing, but they're in jail. And then they'll be having it with someone who's got everything, got the name, you know, done the bird, got all the money, but they become very good friends. So this is what I'm saying to you. It's not real. It really isn't real. You're broken away, as I said, from reality. Anyway, one of the most dangerous jails which I went to. Now, there's quite a few dangerous jails what I've done, yeah. The Cat A's, because I was a Cat A, yeah, I've got 12 years. There was the reason why why they made me a Cat A is because I was an escapee, yeah. The nature of my offences was firearms, armed robberies and firearms, and, you know, outside connections. So that's why they turned me into a Cat A. And I'll tell you something now, it was good because I was jumping the queues, you know, and getting chaperoned everywhere by screws, but you're lost in the system. You really are in trouble. So there's nothing glamorous about being a Cat A whatsoever, you know. Now thinking about it, I'd rather be a Cat B, you know, because then you're going home, you're getting home, leave you on the outside, you know, an open prison, I must say, more like. But yeah, I'm going to have a little talk to you about Swaleside in a minute, because a few of the comments, a few of the of my loyal subscribers, what have been there from day one of my journey, always ask me, you know, if I can tell prisoner stories, and I asked them why, and they said because they're the ones they're the stories what are most interesting. I could talk to you about work all day long. I could talk to you about clothing all day long. I could talk to you about materialistic things what I've got all day long. You know, I couldn't count the materialistic things what I've got. I've got so much around me. Got my own business, you know, written a book, got a second book coming out, got lovely, lovely clothes, got a nice bit of Tom around me. I've got everything around me, you know, I really have. But I'm not one to boast. I can't stand boasters. So materialistic things don't mean fuck all to me. Anyway, I do like rambling on a little bit, don't I? But yeah. Someone asked me what is the most dangerous jail I went to. Now, there's so many dangerous jails. As I said, the Cat A's are dangerous, but they don't go off as much. So there's not as much, the screws don't hit the bell so much, whereas they do in Cat B jails like Blunderston, Swaleside, you know, and Elmley, all them other prisoners, what are Cat B's. It goes off a lot more in Cat B's and Cat C's than what it does in Cat A's. But when it goes off in Cat A's, it goes off. You know, people get severely hurt. If you look back on my videos, you'll see that even, you know, me, and I had all my codees around me. You know, I can say I was untouchable in there because I have my codees around me. I'm a very well-known, respected person, you know, and had a bit of clout in there. But even me, you know, because I had such a big name in there, yeah, you could, you know, you'll get a little like 21-year-old, a 22-year-old who want to take you out just to climb up that ladder, to get up the pecking order a little bit more, because where I had a big name, you know, they could turn around and say, oh, I plunged Joey Barnett, I done Joey Barnett. And that's how it goes. So even people like me, when I used to go out on the yard, I used to go out with hard books wrapped around my waist like a vest. there was a lot of violence, you know. I committed a lot of violence, but I don't glamorise it. I don't like boasting about the violence what I committed, because looking back on it now, you know, if I could turn back the hands of time, I certainly would. But Swaleside, yeah, was one of the most dangerous jails I'd ever been to. The bell was getting pushed by the screws, even by inmates, at least 3 or 4 times a day, each day. And, you know, inmates were going out, getting sewn up, getting stitched up, you know, people getting their throat cut from there to there, getting miles down there. You know, you had workshops in there, metal workshops where they make metal, you know. And yeah, there was metal detectors in there, but there was ways of getting metal, you know, shanks back to your cell. And that's what people was doing. They was getting shanks, real shanks, you know. I'm talking about 1.5 foot long shanks. So, you know, if you look on my book, if you check my book, which is on Amazon, it's called the South London Bolster Boys Towers. There's quite a few stories on there. I'm not really going to mention it on here because I certainly don't want to get a strike on my channel. But yeah, the violence was on another level, you know. There was spurs, yeah, on each wing. I think you had about 4, maybe 3 or 4 spurs on each wing. And obviously on association, your door got unlocked and you could walk about, you could cook, you could play snooker, you could go on the phone, you could play table tennis, you could go into other cells. And in the other cells, you had I was a prison tattooist, so I had inmates queuing up, literally queuing up for tattoos. And I used to make my tattoo gun out of a Walkman motor or a stereo. I'd rip the motor out of it, you know, get a pen, get a paper clip, sharpen it up to a needle, or get a B string off the guitar, sharpen that up, you know, stick that in the end of a biro, put the end of the biro into a fork, a plastic fork, bend it over like an L shape like that, put the motor on the end of it. And the ink what I used to use was from printers, which got stolen from down the IT computer classes. I used to pay people tattoos to give me ink cartridges. So I'd say to someone, you know, if you can get me an ink cartridge, I'll do you any tattoo you want. And by getting the ink cartridge, I used to bust the ink cartridges open, and there's a little silver foil bag in there, and that was full of ink. And yeah, that would last me probably about 6 months. Recently, only the other day, one of my friends called Kevin, he sent me a message, and I was with him in Swaleside, and he sent me a message and he sent me a picture on WhatsApp, and he said, "Do you remember doing this?" And I couldn't believe it. He showed me a tattoo what I'd done from his kneecap down to his ankle, and it was Chelsea, big, massive old English writing. So yeah, I was a prison tattooist, and in there, in Swaleside, in the cells, you had pubs, someone what was brewing hooch, and then you had a bookies, someone what was ringing up, you know, their people outside, people placing bets on horses during the weekend. You had like drug houses in there where you'd go into a cell and you could buy any drug what you wanted, and the drugs in there was on another level. It really was. As luck had it, there wasn't no spice in there when I done my bird. It was all a bit of wacky backy, or a bit of the dark stuff, or a bit of the white stuff. But no, not many people wanted the white stuff in there because it pranged you out, it wired you out. And what can you do? You're in a jail, you know, you're stuck in the system. What can you do? You can't do nothing. So people didn't want that high, they wanted it down. And that's when the B come into it, yeah? So 90% of the drugs in there was brown, and you had screws bringing it in. You know, you got bent screws in every single jail what you go to, corrupt screws, because their pay isn't very good, and the drug dealers offer them such a big purse that the temptations are so high that they end up folding and bringing drugs in. Yeah. At Swaleside, you know, whilst I was in there, yeah, I see 3 people getting done, not with water, boiling hot water and sugar, fat. it'd been boiled up on a pan for like a few hours, and then they put sugar in it, and then that's when they go bang over you. I'll give you one story. There was a couple of bods in the kitchen talking about they're going to do someone because he's a wrong un. There was a bit of beef with him. He was supposed to be an informant of grass, and the beef was from outside. So, you know, it was hardcore. It really was hardcore. Yeah, man. Thinking about it now, it gives me PTSD. It really does. But yeah, two geezers were boiling up a pan of boiling hot fat. There was a kid, well, not a kid, he was about 23. He was in the association room because they put films on in the association room, watching TV, and one of the blokes come from behind him and literally sat the pot on top of his head. And I watched him. I actually watched the geezer's face melt off. It just went like that all the way down his face. Horrific burns. I've never ever heard someone scream so bad in all my life. I can actually still hear them screams today because I've got PTSD. I can still hear that bloke screaming. And yeah, helicopter landed on the field in Swaleside and quickly flew him out to the hospital with horrific burns. He didn't come back into the jail. The two blokes what done him didn't get nicked, you know. That's just one, but I see many other people getting plunged, getting stabbed. Drug dealers getting people bang into debt in there, giving them strap, giving as much as they wanted, knowing that bloke ain't got no money outside, you know, he ain't got no way of paying the drug debt. And what a drug dealer would do, they'd say to him, right, I want you to go and do him. So they'd put a contract on someone, and, you know, that is how they paid their bills. So that is why it was a dangerous jail, yeah? Because there was so many drugs in there. And as soon as drugs come into a prison, that's what makes it very, very dangerous, yeah? Because these drug dealers, all they care about is their pocket. They don't give a fuck about no one. That's why I can't stand these drug dealers now, guys. But yeah, I'm going to get this one uploaded. I'll probably be at you shortly because I'm in one of them types of moods. I'm in a good mood. I hope everyone's had a good weekend so far. So far, the weather's been good and I'm good. I hope you're all good, man. Peace.